Alright, so here we have the ELEGOO Saturn 4. It comes with this pretty attractive green cover, and you guys can tell it's a pretty large printer and definitely looks quite unique. As we can see here, it hinges and it does stop, and that's actually very convenient as you just flip it up instead of having to take the whole cover off. So we got lots of different materials here with plastic backing, and then we got a metal frame on the inside which is aluminum. Then we got this arm here which is also aluminum with some plastic coverings. We got the new latch design, which is great as it makes it really easy to take the plate in and out. We do have a pretty unique build plate, which is in two pieces. We got the upper portion here and the bottom, and this is a auto leveling style system here, which is great because you don't have to worry about leveling the platform anymore. And underneath we can see it's etched for better grip. We got two linear rails, the lead screw, and going down here we got the tub, which is quite large, and our total print build volume is 218 by 122 by 220 millimeters tall, so quite large. So we got a lot of metal construction on the upper portion here, and as we go down it becomes plastic. But let's look at the tub here a little more. So we got two pour spouts. It is connected with these two knobs, which are bolts. As we can see, we have a max line to fill the resin. Again, it's quite large. And on the bottom we can see we got little feet, so when we set it down it doesn't sit on the film. This is a 12K mono type screen, and we also have a Fresnel lens there that evens the light out. And if we go down to our screen and tools, calibration, we can run an exposure test. It'll show us an image here and we can see the UV light coming through. So we have a very attractive design. We got a logo here. The screen is a very nice size. It's vertical. It works very well. Got a little ELEGOO logo here. Got 4 rubber feet on the bottom. Going to this side of the printer, this is where our USB plugs in, power on and off switch, and the power supply input port, which goes to this brick, quite large. It is 144 watts, which is 24 volt, 6 amp. The other side of the printer is quite clean. We just got this venting and the UV lights do come through here. So looking at the back, pretty clean here, except for this part here. We have a little cover where you can connect an exhaust hose. And then going all the way down, here we have the manufacturing sticker. And these hinges here seem to work very well. There's nice resistance, and you can pretty much stop the lid anywhere you want until it gets close to closing and wants to fall. But yeah, it stays up everywhere with good tension. And then there's a hard stop where it holds the whole thing. So yeah, the mechanism here looks very robust and should last a long time. And the way this build plate holds is very nice, as we do have a mechanism here that when you put the lever down, kind of pokes out a bit. You guys can see maybe right there, which pushes on this metal piece here, which makes it a very smooth and secure contact. Very nice design on these newer ELEGOOs. This is definitely the way to go. So let's go ahead and put our tub back in. And here we can have a view with the lid open. It does go pretty tall. I guess let's go ahead and measure it. So it looks like 32 inches, what I could tell. Yep. So yeah, you do need a little bit of room, especially going up. So let's take a closer look at the screen. There's a protector on here. I haven't took it off. I'll just leave it. It does fuzz it up a bit, but overall it looks very sharp and clean. So we got tools. Here we got manual controls. You can go up and down and return to home. We got calibration, which you guys saw. That makes an exposure on the top, and that's to check your screen and UV lights, and you can adjust the time here. We got tank clean, which is pretty much the same thing, except it opens it up all the way. So if you want to solidify something, here we have the stop button. So I guess that just cancels whatever it's doing. And we have device test. So this goes through everything and tests. So I can click on that, you guys can see it goes through everything and checks all of these things about the printer. And also it's kind of cool that it shows you how many times the film was released. So after a certain amount of times, it'll remind you to replace the film. All right, so I guess that's all in the tools and the settings. We got information. You can turn the sound on and off. I guess I'll leave it on. The language, so it looks like we have Chinese or English. I'll cancel that. And service, how you can reach the company. That's pretty much it, looks like. And here we have print, which will start reading the card. And we have test print here, the famous Rook. If we click on that, it will give us information, how long it's going to take, and layers. We do have a couple folders for slicers. So very simple, easy to use. All right, and so with that said, let's go ahead and talk about a resin here and the safety. So make sure you wear some gloves if you're gonna handle resin. And also you might wanna wear a face mask for breathing. And also it's quite important that you use your resin printer in a well-ventilated area, as you don't want to breathe the stuff in, which is a pretty high odor. Today we're gonna be using water washables. I love using these as it's a little simpler to clean and the odor seems to be less, but it's not dramatically less. So yeah, take full precautions. So you want to mix up your bottle pretty well if it's new or used. And let's go ahead and pour some resin in here. So this is a pretty large tub. You want to make sure you get enough resin. So I'm going to fill it up a good amount, but not all the way to the max line, obviously, as that will require a lot more. And it looks like if you have a full bottle, it will or should get close to the max line. So we'll just start with this. I do have some bubbles in there, shaked it up probably a little more violently than I needed to, but it was sitting around for a bit, so I wanted to make sure it's all mixed in. So let's go ahead and start our first print. We'll click on the print button here on the test file, and we'll have the rook. We'll click start, and there it goes. So it is going to go through some procedures here. It is quite smart, which knows how much resin's in here somehow. And also it does have a special mechanical sensor that can detect if something's out of order, or let's say you got something in the tub in there. So yeah, these newer printers are quite advanced. So we're going in slow. You guys probably can't see very well from that angle, but we're going there in the resin. And so now it's saying auto leveling, and we kind of missed that, and we have the first layer going, and we can see a little picture here of what the layer looks like. All right, so that's our first one. Now let's go into the second one. So the first exposures are quite long. So on the screen here, we can see it says print, then our layer picture there. It is a .goo file. We got the temperature there, which I'm wondering if that's the resin temperature. No, that's probably not, because that would be probably too hot. But in any case, there's some temperature gauge there, and it does fluctuate quite a bit. The UV lights come on, it goes up quite a lot, and then it drops when they turn off. So on the top there, we have a counter that's saying how much longer we got. And then on the bottom there, we can see 4 layers down out of 1000 and how much time passed since we started, which is 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Then we have a percentage number with 1% and a bar that's green that fills up on the bottom here. And on the very bottom, we have settings, pause, and stop. So pause will naturally pause it. Stop will cancel the print. And then settings, we can adjust more things here. So we're gonna have 5 layers of 35 seconds bottom exposure, and we can change that also. And then after the 5 layers, we got normal exposure at 2.5 seconds. And here we can also control the light delay. So yeah, pretty basic, but everything you need, and you can change this on the fly while you're printing. So I'm a little worried that the first 5 layers are gonna be probably sticking too well, but we'll see, as this is a test print. But yeah, the screen is very nice, it's very responsive, and we have all the information we need here on the front of it. The font is a little small in the numbers, but pretty readable. So let's go ahead and close the lid, and we do have a little indentation here for the lid to sit. And it does seal pretty nicely, and that should help UV light stay out from our resin, and also kind of try to keep the smells in too. Now if you do want to control your emissions better, you can obviously connect a pipe or a hose in the back where you can ventilate it out, or you can get some carbon neutralizers that will kind of help reduce the smells. But again, you want to use this thing somewhere where there's lots of ventilation. So we're printing away, everything is good. You guys can kind of maybe hear the printer, it's not loud at all. Has like a fan sound, and that's about it. And we are on layer 132 out of 1000. So yeah, moving along. But let's go ahead, open the lid. And what I want to do is pause it to see if we are stuck on the bottom of the plate. So that's a good way to check. So let's go ahead and click pause. So it's saying, do you want to stop this? We'll confirm. So it should be pausing. And there it goes, it's going up. And sure enough, we can see our print under there is stuck. It's a little dark, but yeah, you guys can see it's under there, and everything looks good. The rook is holding on just fine, so we can go ahead and push play, and it's just gonna continue printing. So yeah, if you wanna check, make sure you're sticking before you print too much, go about 50, 100 layers. Or we got 150 now, and you can see how it's stuck on there. But with the new plates that ELEGOO's been producing with the etch finish, they seem all to stick very well. So we'll let this thing continue and finish the print. All right, so our first print is done, and it took 3 hours and 14 minutes, which is a little longer than I expected, but no big deal. That's the file that was provided. Let's go ahead and open it up, and we can see our model there. Now for the next part, I got some water here. I got a pan or a sheet that we can work on, glove, a metal scraper, and a plastic scraper. And the plastic one is for the inside of the tub to check, make sure nothing's in there. And the metal one we're gonna use to scrape the model off the build plate. And I also got this little brush, and this is for the cleaning. It's optional, but yeah, make sure you wear your protective gear. So I'm just gonna use one glove now. And so because this is water washable resin, we can just use regular water instead of alcohol, which is a lot more smellier. So this is why I like washable resin, as it's more friendly. So let's go ahead. So the good part is that none of this ever gets resin on it, just the bottom part. And when we do pull this out, keep it pretty level and then tilt it when we get to the sheet, as we're gonna have some runoff. So yeah, you guys can see it's stuck pretty well. Let's go ahead and see if we can take this off. All right, well, that wasn't that bad. Actually popped off pretty cleanly, and everything looks good. So now we can pick this plate up and put it back, since we are gonna continue printing. And now we can grab the model, which actually looks pretty good, and we're gonna dip it in the water, and you guys will see how it starts to shed. Hopefully you can see that. But yeah, so water washable resin is really cool, and the reason I have this brush is because I do like to brush the details, but you gotta be really light with it, and you gotta have a really soft brush. So anything that has letters on it or really sharp details, I found that going over with it really helps bring the details out. And if you really are going to be doing this regularly, you probably want to get a wash and cure station where this can get washed with like twirling water and stuff, and also it could cure. But I do recommend curing this and not direct UV rays like sunlight, so just normal lit room cures nicely and cleanly. But yeah, simple as that. We're pretty much done washing this thing, so now we can just let it dry while we continue to print other things, and we'll check out all the prints that we print at the end. All right, so here we are at the computer, and I got the thumb drive plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. So this is what's on the inside. We got a PDF of the manual, everything it comes with here, what everything's called, and the technical specs, but also how to get started. We got another folder here called printing test, and that's going to be the Rook in STL and GOO form, so you can print it out. STL is the 3D file that we can view, and it looks like we have more chess pieces included if you want to print some of these. And for the last folder, we have the slicer, which is Voxel Dance Tango, and they have Mac or a Windows. So I'm using Mac. I'm going to install, so we're going to drag this over, going to download. Let's go ahead and open it up. So I'm not too familiar with Tango, but I hear it's a very good slicer. And it's interesting how ELEGOO is using Tango now instead of Chitubox. So if we click on the first icon where it says platform definitions, so we need to add a new printer and find the Saturn 4. Here it is. You can see a picture of it. Add machine. So all the parameters here should be what you need. You can adjust things. And we can see our resolutions in 11.5K, which is almost 12. And here's our build size, just 218 by 122 by 218 looks like on the Z. And on the resin tab, we have more about the resin. And below here, we have the price, the print. So these are going to be all the more fine tuning, and advanced, even more things to adjust here. So I'm just going to leave everything the way it is, and we'll just see how it does. So we'll click apply, and we should be good to start our slice here. I'm wondering if they have dark mode. So I just went to settings, and in general, we have dark. Let's see if that works. There we go. That's much nicer. I prefer dark because it's easier on the eyes. But yeah, here's our build plate, and there is a label here that says front. If you want to face your models to the front, that's where you'll face them. Initially, this will be upside down, obviously. So let's go ahead and throw an Eiffel Tower in here. So it kind of zooms in into the model. So there's a little arrow here. If we push it, we can see we got some more options, what we're working on. We got a bunch of options here. So if we select the model, we have all these things we can do. The basics, the move, the rotate, same way. Scale, which I do want to click the scale to fit. And we can see all the parameters here in this corner, which we are going all the way to 218. So yeah, this is going to be pretty decent size, large Eiffel Tower. So again, click on the tower to have more options up here. You can duplicate, mirror, on plate, orientation, and it kind of has a little picture that helps you to see what all these are for. You can also hollow out the model, which for this one we don't need. And also we can make a hole in the model to drain resin out. You can also label anything anything. And we got more advanced options here, including support here. So we don't need supports for this, but if you do, you will click on here and then you will generate them from this menu here. So this does take a little bit of learning, but you can just use the default and click on generate supports, and you can see that it'll generate them. And it's just stuck on 89, so I think I'm just going to cancel if it lets me. Okay, but in any case, that's how you do supports. All right, so it won't even let me cancel at this point. Might have to restart this whole thing. All right, so I had to force quit as it got stuck. No big deal, I guess. It's asking us if we want to restore, I guess. Let's try doing that. There we go. With the model still not at the correct scale, so let's rescale it to fit. So let's just click on slice, and there goes our slice. So we can see our layers here. And we have a little scroller here, we can scroll through them. So we have all of our stats here on the side, and here we can control the bottom layer count, the exposure time. I'm actually going to turn this down just a little bit to 2.2 for the regular exposure, and the bottom exposure we'll also turn that down to 25 seconds. 4 layers instead of 5, and the rest I guess we'll just leave the way it is. So I'm kind of making it where it cures a little less and less bottom layers. Not a big change, just a small little one, but you know, obviously you're going to adjust all this according to your resin and how it's sticking and things like that. So yeah, once you're happy with everything, you're going to click on export slice. It's going to ask you what kind of file you want to make. So it's going to make a GOO file and where you want to save it. So we're going to save it straight to the desktop and click OK down here, and now it's making the file. And here it is. We don't really need to open the folder. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drag it, the file that we just made, the GOO file, into our thumb drive. And it's going to appear here in the thumb drive. And now we can exit this out and then take our thumb drive to the printer, plug it in, choose our Eiffel Tower, and start printing. And once we're done here on the top here, we can click back on preparing, and we go back to the main screen here where we did everything. So yeah, hopefully this helped with a little quick overview of how to slice a print for the Saturn 4. All right, so we started our Eiffel Tower and we're printing, and I wanted to show you guys or share with you that if you don't like the very harsh smell from the resin, these little guys here do a great job. So this is like a air purifier filter. Many different brands sell them. And so there's just like a charcoal filter with a fan, and that really eliminates the smell. So some of them are larger, these are kind of a smaller kind, and these are made to go inside the printer even. They're battery operated, you just charge them and turn them on and off here with the switch. So you can put them right inside here to really kill the smell. But what I like to do is keep one inside and then keep one on the outside to kind of filter the air around. And with the lid closed, it really helps with eliminating the resin fumes, which helps a lot. And when you're done printing, let's say you're not going to print for a week or more or a few days, you want to make sure you clean everything up. Now, if you think you're going to print within a day or two, then you can just leave this lid closed and leave the resin in the tub if you want. So it's kind of on standby. Just make sure you're not anywhere where it's too sunny or direct sunlight. And also you might want to stir up the resin in there as it does start to separate over time, and you want to agitate it before you print. But if you're going to be done, you know, you want to clean off your build plate, which I did already with the last models. And then you want to save your extra resin by pouring it back, and you do want to use a filter. We don't know what's in there. There could be some contamination. You don't want to contaminate your good resin. And we're just going to pour the extras back into our bottle. So probably using a funnel or something would be easier, but yeah, this works too. Just got to be a little more careful with it. So depending on how much patience you got, we'll get as much out as we can. And then once we're done, we can go ahead and clean this thing out. So it's got a very thin layer in there. We do have a tank clean option where the UV lights can solidify that, but I do not recommend doing that. And if you are going to do that, make sure you have a pretty decent amount of resin in your tub, because if it's too thin, it'll be very hard to get it off. But yeah, and that's how you save your resin, and we'll have some left for next time. All right, so these are all the prints we printed on the Saturn 4. Everything went well, and I love how large the build volume is. And also this flip-up cover is super convenient. So we got a few prints. Let's start with our root here that we first printed. So we can see the bottom looks really good. There's a little bit of pitting from bubbles in the resin, but if we look at the lettering and the detail, the sharpness, it's excellent. And I was obviously expecting that from this printer. And yeah, ELEGOO got so good at this stuff that there's really nothing to complain about. Pretty much perfect. So let's check out this pretty detailed print. So this is like an elf, and I did have supports on this, and it's completely solid. Yeah, it does have some shiny parts. I didn't wash it as good as I needed to, but you guys can see the detail is super impressive. So it's not perfect, but it's very, very good. And some of it has to do with the resin I used. I realized that this resin is actually old, or an older bottle that I have that's expired. Yeah, overall you guys can see that the detail's all there, and it does look pretty much perfect, which is quite incredible. Here we have this droid lizard thing, and this is really cool because it has all these holes. And if we look at the top here, it looks pretty much perfect. Yeah, even here on the smoother parts, it's beautiful. Now, I did do an experiment with this thing and had a very low exposure time and a few layers on the bottom, and they ended up delaminating. So we did have that issue, but that was kind of my fault. I was kind of experimenting with different settings to see how low I can go. And this was 10 seconds, I think, on the first 3 layers. So yeah, pretty minimal there, and it didn't really want to stick. So for my printer, I ended up going to around 25 seconds on the first 5 layers, which is about right. You guys can see the print does look really good. So here we have another print that's pretty cool because detailed and very thin on the antlers. But yeah, overall looks great. Very smooth body all around. There is a few little layer lines here and there, but they're quite minimal. But yeah, if we go here to the face and to the antlers, pretty incredible of how well and detailed this printer is. The next print we have is actually really cool. This is called a neuron. So this is just a bunch of like webs in between each other. And this would be very hard to make on anything else but a resin 3D printer. So yeah, it's pretty incredible what you could do. Everything is pretty much perfect. And this is the bottom here. You guys can probably tell it is a little bit thicker than the rest of it, but yeah, other than that, pretty much perfection. So here we have an Eiffel Tower, and this is printed the full height, or maybe almost, I can't remember. It was either 218 or 220, but yeah, it's pretty much the full height. And yeah, this thing turned out very nice and sharp. I did break off one of the foots, taking it off, being too hasty. But anytime you print straight to the build plate, it's, you know, sometimes it's a little tricky to take it off. But yeah, as far as the detail, guys, it's quite incredible. It is so sharp and so precise and perfect, I would say. There's nothing to complain about here. And you can see through these. I don't know if you guys can see, but yeah, you can see through all of these, all the way to the top, even all the way up there. So very, very high precision print and looks excellent. And the last print we got is quite large, and it's this model of Deadpool. So for the most part, this thing turned out great, except for the bottom part here. I kind of messed it up. This is hollowed out also and drained here from the top. I have a plug in there. And also I made a hole here so it could breathe in the back so I could wash it. But we had some delamination here on the bottom. So I think I didn't have enough layer exposure, especially for these larger pieces. But I'm not sure exactly what went wrong there. The bottom itself looks pretty much perfect. And yeah, it's just this first layers. And I think I didn't clean it out as well because we do have a little bit of cracking on the bottom as there's some resin inside that's trying to cure. If we ignore all that and go up higher here, we can see the detail is incredible. And this thing turned out very, very nice. So yeah, if you plan on printing things like this, you will be very happy and satisfied with the results. Pretty amazing. And it's awesome that you can print larger items like this because you do have the volume. So yeah, you guys can see that this is a pretty versatile printer, and it does a great job for just normal printing. It is quite smart, meaning if you don't have enough resin in there, it won't even start a print. It'll ask you to add it. It also has an intelligent mechanical sensor that can feel if something is wrong. The auto bed leveling is quite awesome, as somehow it auto calibrates and knows how to adjust itself for the bed leveling. We obviously have a 12K mono screen that's quite high fidelity, as you see in the prints. The Fresnel lens helped the UV light come out perfectly straight for better precision. The build volume is large at 218 by 122 by 220 tall millimeters. The way the build plate secures is so nice and easy to use, and the touchscreen here is also very nice with high resolution. So yeah, this printer has a lot to offer, and because it doesn't have any of the more fancier features like Wi-Fi connectivity and the tilting tub mechanism, it does put this printer in the more budget conscious buyers, which makes it it a great value for what you get. So if you're looking for a good priced resin printer that just works, the Saturn 4 here delivers. And if you are just getting started, this would also be a great one to start with. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to have some links in the description. Check it out. And if you did enjoy this video, then hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, check out my 3D printing playlist. I'm sure you'll find something interesting there. And also stay tuned for more videos to come, as we got pretty interesting stuff coming up. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next. Peace.